The morning sun warmed Rose's back as she kneeled in the rich soil, carefully pruning the climbing roses that decorated the east wall of Blackwood Estate. The garden shears in her hands moved with practiced precision, snipping away dead growth to make room for new life. This was her favorite part of the job: quiet moments alone with the plants, the scent of earth and flowers filling her lungs. For nearly 8 months, Rose had tended these gardens, watching them transform with the seasons. Spring had now fully blossomed into summer, and the estate grounds were bursting with color. Though she worked here almost daily, she had never once caught a glimpse of the owner, Mr. Chen, the reclusive billionaire whose name graced business magazines and news headlines. The staff whispered about him, how he rarely visited, how he was always traveling for business, how he preferred his privacy above all else. Rose didn't mind. She was happy with her simple routine, caring for the sprawling gardens with the kind of attention that came from genuine love for growing things. "Those white roses are particularly beautiful this year," a deep voice said from behind her. Rose startled, nearly dropping her shears. She turned to find a tall man standing a few feet away, dressed in faded jeans and a simple button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Nothing about him suggested wealth or power. He looked like he might be one of the groundskeepers she hadn't yet met. "Sorry," he said with a warm smile that reached his eyes. "I didn't mean to frighten you." "It's okay," Rose replied, brushing soil from her gardening gloves. "I was just lost in my own world. And yes, these roses are doing wonderfully this year. I adjusted their soil balance last fall." The man stepped closer, examining the climbing roses with genuine interest. "You clearly know what you're doing." "I'm Alex," he said, extending his hand. Rose hesitated before removing her dirty glove to shake his hand. "I'm Rose." She laughed at the coincidence. "I know, a gardener named Rose. My parents must have known what they were doing." Alex's laugh was genuine, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "It suits you." They fell into easy conversation as Rose continued her work. Alex asked intelligent questions about the gardens that revealed he knew something about horticulture himself. She explained her approach to the estate's landscaping, how she'd been working to incorporate more native plants that required less water and supported local pollinators. The previous landscaper was all about perfect lawns and imported flowers that needed constant care, she explained. "I'm trying to create something beautiful that works with nature, not against it." "That's exactly what this place needs," Alex said, his expression thoughtful as he gazed across the rolling lawns toward the massive stone house. Something in his manner made Rose wonder if he might be more than a groundskeeper, perhaps the estate manager. Time slipped away as they talked. Rose found herself sharing stories about her small apartment filled with houseplants, her grandmother who had taught her to garden, her dreams of someday designing sustainable gardens for public spaces. Alex listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed he was truly hearing her. "I should let you get back to work," Alex finally said, glancing at his watch. "But I've enjoyed this conversation more than any I've had in months." "Me too," Rose admitted, surprised by how comfortable she felt with this stranger. "Would it be all right if I stopped by again? Maybe tomorrow?" There was a hint of uncertainty in his voice that Rose found endearing. "I'll be here," she said with a smile. These roses won't prune themselves. As Alex walked away toward the main house, Rose wondered about him. There was something in his eyes, a kind of loneliness that resonated with her own. In a place where she usually felt invisible to everyone except the plants, being truly seen was a novel feeling. What Rose didn't know as she returned to her pruning was that Alex had watched her work many times from the windows of his home office. She didn't know that the man in the simple clothes was actually Alexander Chen, owner of Blackwood Estate and CEO of Chen Innovations. And she certainly couldn't have guessed that their chance conversation would change both their lives forever. True to his word, Alex returned to the garden the next day and the day after that. Soon it became a pattern. Rose would look up from her work to find him walking toward her, sometimes carrying 2 cups of coffee, other times just bringing his warm smile. "I brought you something," Alex said one afternoon, about 2 weeks after they'd first met. He held out a small paper bag. "The bakery in town makes these amazing lemon cookies. I thought you might like them." Rose wiped her hands on her work pants and accepted the gift. "Thank you, that's really thoughtful." She opened the bag and the sweet citrus scent wafted up. "Would you like to share them?" I was about to take my lunch break anyway. They sat together on a stone bench overlooking the rose garden. Rose had spent the morning weeding this section, and she felt a quiet pride in how tidy it looked now. As they ate the cookies, Alex asked about her weekend, and Rose found herself telling him about the community garden where she volunteered, teaching kids from the nearby apartments how to grow vegetables. "You should see their faces when they pull their first carrot from the ground," she said, her eyes bright with the memory. "Like they've discovered magic." "That sounds wonderful," Alex said. There was something wistful in his voice. "Sometimes I think we lose touch with those simple joys as we get older." Rose nodded. "Is that why you come out here to talk to the garden lady instead of staying in your office? Looking for simple joys?" Alex laughed, but there was truth in her question. "Maybe. There's something peaceful about being out here, and the company's not bad either." As the days stretched into weeks, their friendship deepened. Rose learned that Alex was well-traveled but preferred home cooking to fancy restaurants. He told her stories about growing up with strict parents who had big expectations. He asked questions about her life that made her feel like her ordinary experiences were somehow interesting. What Rose didn't tell Alex was how she looked forward to their talks, how she found herself thinking about things to tell him while she worked, how his visits had become the highlight of her days. She didn't mention that she'd started taking extra care with her appearance each morning, though she tried to convince herself it was just professional pride. One rainy Thursday, Alex showed up with a large umbrella and 2 raincoats. "I thought maybe you'd like to see the Japanese garden on the north side," he said. "The rain makes it especially beautiful." Rose hesitated. "I probably shouldn't leave my work area." "It's okay," Alex assured her. "I know the boss wouldn't mind." If only he knew who he was talking about, Rose thought with amusement. She assumed Alex was the estate manager, someone important enough to make decisions, but still an employee like her. She had no idea that when he said the boss, he was referring to himself. The Japanese garden was even more stunning than Rose had imagined, with water dripping from carefully shaped trees and stone lanterns standing silent in the mist. They'd walked slowly along the winding path, sharing the large umbrella, their shoulders occasionally touching. "I've wanted to come here since I started working at the estate," Rose admitted. "But this area is always locked." Alex produced a key from his pocket. "Special access," he said with a wink. Under a wooden pavilion overlooking a small pond, they watched koi fish swimming lazily through the rain-dappled water. The world felt smaller somehow, just the 2 of them in this peaceful space, while rain drummed softly on the roof. "I have to go to Hong Kong next week," Alex said suddenly. "Business trip. I'll be gone for 10 days. Rose tried to hide her disappointment. "Oh, well, safe travels." "I was wondering." Alex turned to face her, suddenly looking uncertain. "Would you have dinner with me when I get back?" "Not here at the estate. Somewhere in town, maybe." Rose felt her heart skip. This wasn't just friendly conversation anymore. This was something else. Like a date. "Exactly like a date," Alex said, his eyes hopeful. Rose smiled. "I'd like that." What Rose couldn't know was that back at the main house, preparations had already begun for the annual charity gala. Alex hadn't mentioned it because he hadn't yet figured out how to explain that the event would be hosted at his estate, the same estate where Rose believed he was just another employee. He hadn't planned to keep his identity secret for so long, but now he worried about how she would react when she learned the truth. The 10 days Alex was away felt strangely long to Rose. She found herself looking up whenever she heard footsteps on the garden path, only to feel a twinge of disappointment when it was just another staff member. The garden seemed quieter somehow, as if they too missed his presence. On the day of his return, Rose wore her favorite work shirt, a simple button-up in a soft green that brought out the color of her eyes. She'd even put on a light touch of lip gloss, something she rarely bothered with for gardening work. Around midday, as she was planting new bulbs along the walkway, a shadow fell across her work area. She looked up, unable to stop the smile that spread across her face. "Welcome back," she said, standing and brushing dirt from her knees. Alex looked tired, with faint shadows under his eyes, but his smile was as warm as ever. "It's good to be home." The way he said home made Rose wonder if he meant the estate or something else entirely. "How was your trip?" she asked, pulling off her gardening gloves. Successful but exhausting. Alex shook his head. Endless meetings in stuffy boardrooms. But let's not talk about that. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small packet wrapped in decorative paper. I brought you something. Rose carefully unwrapped the gift to find a packet of flower seeds. The label was in Chinese characters with small pictures of striking blue blooms. They're Chinese forget-me-nots, Alex explained. The shop owner told me they symbolize true love and remembrance. I thought maybe you could plant them here, or at your home if you prefer. Rose felt a warmth spreading through her chest. Thank you. I've never grown these before. I remembered our dinner plans, Alex said. Are you free tonight? That evening, Rose spent more time getting ready than she had for any date in years. She chose a simple sundress with tiny flowers printed on it, nothing fancy, but pretty and feminine. As she waited on her small porch for Alex to pick her up, she felt nervous in a way she hadn't since high school. A sleek black car pulled up in front of her modest apartment building. Rose had expected something nice, but not quite this nice. The window rolled down to reveal Alex in the driver's seat, looking different in a crisp button-down shirt and sport coat. You look beautiful, he said as she got into the car. Rose blushed. You clean up pretty well yourself. Where are we going? There's a little place at the edge of town. Family-owned, great food, not too crowded. The restaurant was exactly as Alex had described, warm and inviting with delicious food served in a cozy setting. They talked and laughed through dinner, sharing stories and discovering new things about each other. Rose was surprised to learn that Alex was an orphan who had been raised by his uncle, that he spoke 3 languages, that he had once wanted to be a chef. What about you? Alex asked. What dreams did little Rose have? She twirled her fork in her pasta. I'd always wanted a garden of my own, not just plants in pots, but real land where I could grow things. A little house with green all around it. She laughed softly. Nothing fancy or ambitious. It sounds perfect, Alex said, his eyes warm as they held hers. After dinner, they walked along the riverfront, the evening air cool and fragrant with spring blossoms. As they paused to watch the moonlight dancing on the water, Alex gently took Rose's hand in his. I need to tell you something, he said, his voice serious, about who I am. Rose's heart dropped. Was he married? In some kind of trouble? I haven't been completely honest with you, Alex continued. I'm not just someone who works at the estate. He took a deep breath. I'm Alexander Chen. The estate is mine. Rose stared at him, sure she had misheard. You own Blackwood Estate. You're that Alexander Chen. The billionaire. Yes, his eyes searched her face anxiously. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. When we met, it was so refreshing to talk to someone who didn't know, who just saw me as a regular person. I didn't want that to end. Rose pulled her hand away, trying to process this revelation. All this time, she had been falling for her boss, not just her boss, but one of the richest men in the country. A man whose life was worlds away from her simple existence. A man who had let her believe a lie. Silence hung between them as Rose processed what Alex had just told her. The gentle lapping of the river against its banks seemed suddenly loud in the quiet night. Say something, Alex finally whispered, his voice strained. Please. Rose wrapped her arms around herself, feeling strangely cold despite the mild evening. I don't know what to say. You let me believe you were just another employee. For weeks, Alex. Or should I call you Mr. Chen now? No, please don't, he said quickly. I'm still the same person you've been talking to in the garden. That wasn't fake. Rose looked at him, really looked at him. The expensive watch on his wrist, the tailored cut of his clothes that she should have noticed sooner, the way he carried himself with a quiet confidence. How had she not seen it? Why tell me now? She asked. Alex ran a hand through his hair. Because I care about you more than I expected to. And because there's something else. He hesitated. The annual charity gala for the Chen Foundation is happening at the estate next week. It's a big event, lots of important people. I want you to come with me. Rose let out a small, disbelieving laugh. You want me to be your date to a fancy party with a bunch of rich people? Me, the gardener. Yes, Alex said, his eyes never leaving hers. Because you're the most real person I know. Rose shook her head. I don't belong in that world, Alex. Neither do I, most days, he admitted with a sad smile. Look, I understand if you're angry. I should have told you sooner. But please believe me when I say that meeting you has been the best thing that's happened to me in years. They stood in silence for a long moment. Part of Rose wanted to walk away, to protect herself from whatever complicated mess she was stepping into. But another part couldn't forget the man who brought her coffee, who listened to her stories about teaching kids to garden, who looked at her like she was something precious. I need some time to think, she finally said. Alex nodded. Of course. I'll drive you home. The ride back to her apartment was quiet, the air between them heavy with unspoken words. When he pulled up in front of her building, Rose turned to him. I'm not angry that you're rich, she said slowly. I'm hurt that you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth. I do trust you, Alex said. More than you know. 3 days passed without word from Alex. Rose went to work as usual, tending the gardens with the same care, but her heart wasn't in it. She kept hoping he would appear around the corner with coffee in hand and that warm smile that made her stomach flutter. But he didn't come. On the 4th day, as Rose was leaving the estate, the head housekeeper approached her. Miss Rose, this was delivered for you. She handed Rose a small envelope, thick cream paper with her name written in elegant handwriting. Inside was a card with just a few lines. Asterisk, the gala is this Saturday at 7 p.m. I understand if you don't want to come, but if you do, there will be a car waiting for you at 6:30. No pressure, no expectations. Just a chance to see each other again. Alex asterisk. Rose stared at the card, running her finger over the indentations of his handwriting. She had spent the last few days thinking about nothing else. Did she really want to step into his world? A world of wealth and privilege so far removed from her own simple life. But then she thought about Alex's laugh, about how he listened to her when she talked about plants as if her words were fascinating, about the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. She thought about how, despite his wealth and power, he had seemed most at peace sitting beside her on a stone bench sharing lemon cookies. Saturday evening found Rose standing in front of her small bedroom mirror, hardly recognizing herself. After receiving Alex's invitation, she had splurged on a dress, nothing designer or flashy, but a flowing blue gown that made her feel beautiful. Her normally practical hairstyle was softened into loose waves, and she wore the pearl earrings that had belonged to her grandmother. As promised, a sleek black car pulled up at exactly 6:30. Rose took a deep breath, picked up her small clutch purse, and walked toward her future, whatever it might hold. The car ride to Blackwood Estate felt surreal to Rose. She had left through the staff entrance that morning as a gardener, and now she was returning through the grand main gates as a guest. The driver, polite but professional, opened her door when they arrived at the sweeping front steps of the mansion. Mr. Chen asked me to tell you he'll meet you inside, miss, the driver said with a small bow. Rose's stomach tightened with nerves as she climbed the steps. 2 uniformed staff members opened the massive wooden doors for her, nodding respectfully as she passed. The entrance hall was transformed from its usual quiet elegance into a glittering wonderland. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, flowers filled every corner, and soft music drifted through the air. People in expensive clothes stood in small groups, champagne glasses in hand. Rose felt painfully out of place, like a wildflower in a hothouse of carefully bred roses. A waiter offered her a glass of champagne, which she accepted gratefully, needing something to do with her hands. "Excuse me," said a sharp voice beside her. A woman in a red dress looked her up and down with obvious judgment. "I think the catering staff is supposed to use the side entrance." Rose nearly choked on her champagne. Why not? And really, if you're going to attend this kind of event, you might want to invest in something better than department store fashion, the woman continued, eyeing Rose's blue dress. This is the Chen Foundation Gala, not a high school prom. Heat rushed to Rose's cheeks. Before she could respond, another woman joined them, this one in a sleek black gown dripping with diamonds. "You must be new money," said the second woman with a cold smile. "Or someone's plus one." "Let me guess, one of the junior executives brought his secretary?" Rose straightened her shoulders. "Actually, I'm." "She's obviously not from our circle," Patricia, the first woman, cut in. "Look at her hands." Rose instinctively glanced down at her hands. Despite her best efforts with lotion and a manicure, they still showed signs of her work, slightly rough from years of gardening, with a few faint soil stains around her nails that never quite washed away. "Working hands," Patricia said with a small laugh. "How charming. Well, dear, the bar is that way if you're looking for your date. Though I'd hurry, the good ones don't usually wait around for long." The women drifted away, leaving Rose standing alone, her cheeks burning with humiliation. She wanted nothing more than to run back out the front door and have the driver take her home. This world wasn't hers. These weren't her people. "Rose, you came." She turned to find Alex walking toward her, handsome in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. His face lit up when he saw her, making her momentarily forget her embarrassment. "I wasn't sure you would," he said, taking her hands in his. "I almost didn't," she admitted, "and I'm starting to think I made a mistake." Concern crossed his face. "What happened?" Rose shook her head. "Nothing important. Just feeling a bit out of my element." Alex looked like he wanted to press further, but instead he tucked her hand into the crook of his arm. "Come on, there's someone I want you to meet." He led her through the crowd to an elderly man with kind eyes who was sitting in a quiet corner, away from the main bustle of the party. "Uncle Lee," Alex said warmly. "This is Rose." The old man's face crinkled into a smile. "Ah, the garden girl. My nephew has told me so much about you." Rose felt herself relax slightly as she sat down to talk with Uncle Lee. He told her stories about Alex as a boy, about how he would hide in the gardens when he was supposed to be studying. He was always happiest outside, Uncle Lee said with a fond smile. Until his parents passed and he had to take over the family business. Then he became all work, no play. "Uncle," Alex protested, but there was no heat in it. Their conversation was interrupted by a loud voice. "Alex." "There you are, darling." A tall woman with perfect hair and a designer gown swept toward them. Rose recognized her as one of the women who had insulted her earlier. The woman air-kissed Alex's cheeks before turning calculating eyes to Rose. "And who is this?" she asked, her tone making it clear she thought Rose was nobody important. "This is Rose," Alex said, his voice warm with pride. "Rose, this is Patricia Wan. Her father's company works with mine." Patricia's eyes widened slightly. "This is your friend? The one you mentioned?" "Yes," Alex said simply, placing his hand lightly on Rose's back. Patricia's demeanor changed instantly, a cold dismissal transforming into fake warmth. "How lovely to meet you properly. That's a charming dress." Rose just smiled politely, unsure what to say. As Patricia began chattering to Alex about business matters, Rose caught sight of more guests staring and whispering. She heard fragments of their conversation. "The gardener, can you believe it? Just after his money, obviously. Won't last a month." Rose felt her chest tightening. The room suddenly seemed too hot, too crowded. She leaned toward Alex. "I need some air," she whispered. "Excuse me for a minute." Before he could respond, she slipped away, searching for an exit. She found a set of French doors leading to a terrace and stepped outside, drawing in deep breaths of the cool night air. Behind her, the party continued, full of people who thought she didn't belong. And the worst part was, Rose wasn't sure they were wrong. The night air felt cool against Rose's flushed skin as she leaned against the stone balustrade of the terrace. Stars twinkled overhead, indifferent to the human dramas unfolding below them. From here, she could see parts of the garden she had tended just that morning. Strange to think how much had changed in a single day. "There you are." Rose turned to see Patricia approaching, two champagne flutes in her manicured hands. The woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I thought you might use a fresh drink," Patricia said, offering a glass to Rose. Rose hesitated before accepting. "Thank you." "So," Patricia said, leaning against the railing beside her, "you're Alex's gardener friend. How quaint." "I'm a landscape designer," Rose said quietly but firmly. "I happen to work at the estate." Patricia laughed, the sound sharp and artificial. "Of course you are, dear. And now you've managed to catch the attention of one of the richest men in the country. Quite the climb up the ladder, isn't it?" Rose felt her cheeks burning again. "It's not like that." "It never is," Patricia said with mock sympathy. "Let me give you some friendly advice. Men like Alex Chen playing with pretty little things from time to time, but they marry women from their own world. Don't get your hopes up for anything more than a brief entertainment. Before Rose could respond, she heard the terrace doors open again. 2 more women stepped out, followed by a tall man in an expensive suit. "Patricia, there you are," one woman called. "We've been looking for you. Is this the girl everyone's talking about?" Rose found herself surrounded by curious, judgmental faces. The man looked her up and down like she was an item for sale. "So you're the gardener," he said with an amused smirk. "I had a fling with my pool boy once. Same sort of thing, I imagine." One of the women tittered. "Really, Thomas, don't be crude." She turned to Rose with false sweetness. "Tell us, how did you meet our dear Alex? Was he inspecting the roses?" Their laughter stung like slaps. Rose straightened her spine, determined not to show how much their words hurt. "We met in the garden, yes," she said simply. "And what do you two possibly talk about?" asked Thomas. "Does he explain his billion-dollar business deals while you trim the hedges?" Patricia swirled her champagne. Perhaps she's not here for conversation. The group laughed again, making no attempt to hide their cruelty now. Rose felt tears threatening, but refused to let them fall. These people weren't worth her tears. "Actually," she said quietly, "we talk about everything. Books we've read, places we want to visit, how the right plant in the right place can transform a landscape, how money doesn't guarantee happiness or kindness. Clearly." Thomas's face hardened. "Listen, little flower girl. Do you have any idea who you're talking to? My family has been friends with the Chens for generations. You're nothing but a passing fancy." "That's enough, Thomas." Alex's voice cut through the group like ice. He stood in the doorway, his normally warm eyes cold with anger. Behind him stood Uncle Lee and several other older guests, all watching the scene with disapproval. "Alex," Patricia said, her voice suddenly honey-sweet. "We were just getting to know your friend." "I heard exactly what you were doing," Alex said, walking to Rose's side. "And I'm disappointed. I expected better from people I considered friends and business partners." Thomas scoffed. "Come on, Alex. You can't be serious about her. What would your parents have said?" "My parents valued character over wealth," Alex replied. "Something you seem to have forgotten." He turned to Rose, his expression softening. "Are you okay?" She nodded, unable to trust her voice. The small group on the terrace had fallen silent, but Rose could feel the tension crackling in the air. "Good," Alex said. He took her hand and faced the group. "Because there's something I need to say, and I want you beside me when I say it." He led her back through the French doors into the main ballroom, not letting go of her hand. Uncle Lee followed close behind, a small smile playing on his lips. Rose noticed that conversations were dropping into silence as they passed, all eyes turning to watch them. Alex walked directly to the small stage where the band had been playing. He whispered something to the bandleader, who nodded and tapped his microphone. The music stopped. The room fell silent. Rose's heart pounded so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. What was Alex doing? "If I could have everyone's attention, please," Alex said into the microphone, his voice calm and clear. The last murmurs died away as hundreds of eyes turned toward them. Rose wanted to disappear, but Alex's warm hand holding hers kept her grounded. "Many of you have been wondering about my guest tonight," Alex continued. "I've heard the whispers and speculation, so let me put an end to the rumors." He turned to Rose, his eyes full of something she couldn't quite name, determination, perhaps, or a kind of freedom. "This is Rose," he said, his voice echoing through the silent room. "She's not just my gardener or a temporary distraction, as some of you have suggested." Rose held her breath, waiting for his next words, feeling as though her whole world was balanced on a knife's edge. Alex took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving Rose's face. The entire ballroom was so quiet you could hear the gentle clink of ice in drinks. "Rose is not just someone I met recently," Alex continued, his voice warm but firm. "She is the woman who reminded me what matters in life. When I'm with her, I'm not the CEO or the billionaire or the name in business magazines. I'm just Alex, the person I always wanted to be." He turned back to face the crowd. "Some of you have treated her with disrespect tonight. You've whispered behind her back, made cruel jokes to her face, and judged her because she works with her hands and doesn't have a fancy last name. Patricia and Thomas stood frozen near the back of the room, their faces pale. "What you didn't know," Alex said, a small smile playing on his lips, "is that last weekend, on a quiet morning in the Japanese garden that Rose helped restore, I asked her to marry me. And she said yes." Rose gasped softly beside him. This wasn't how they had planned to announce it. After their reconciliation, Alex had proposed with a simple ring and a promise to love her for who she was, not what she did. They had decided to keep it private until after the gala. A shocked murmur ran through the crowd. Uncle Lee stepped forward, beaming with approval. "Rose will be my wife," Alex said clearly. "Not because of what she does or doesn't own, but because of who she is, kind, honest, hardworking, and real in a way many people in this room have forgotten how to be." He turned to look directly at Patricia and Thomas. "Those who can't respect my choice aren't welcome in my home or my business. I hope that's clear." For a moment, nobody moved or spoke. Then Uncle Lee began to clap, slowly and deliberately. One by one, others joined in until most of the room was applauding, some genuinely, others simply afraid not to. Rose felt dizzy with the sudden turn of events. Alex squeezed her hand and whispered, "I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. I couldn't stand hearing how they talked to you." "It's okay," she whispered back. And strangely it was. Something had shifted inside her. The judgmental stares didn't burn quite as much anymore. Alex helped her down from the stage, and they were immediately surrounded by people eager to congratulate them. Suddenly, everyone wanted to meet the future Mrs. Chen. Rose accepted their good wishes with grace, noting how many previously cold faces were now wreathed in smiles. Later that night, as the party began to wind down, Rose slipped out to the garden. She needed a moment alone to process everything. The familiar scent of flowers and earth scented her as she found a quiet bench near the fountain. Footsteps crunched on the gravel path, and she looked up to see Patricia approaching. Rose braced herself for another confrontation. "May I sit?" Patricia asked, her voice missing its earlier sharpness. Rose nodded cautiously. Patricia smoothed her expensive dress and perched on the bench. "I owe you an apology." Rose said nothing, waiting. "I'm as cruel to you," Patricia continued, staring at her manicured hands. "I judged you without knowing you. The truth is, I'd always hoped Alex might notice me. When he chose someone so different," she shrugged. "I was jealous and petty." "Thank you for saying that," Rose said quietly. "It can't have been easy." Patricia looked up in surprise. "You're very forgiving." "Life's too short not to be," Rose replied. "My grandmother always said holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die." A genuine laugh escaped Patricia. "She sounds wise." After a moment she added, "You're going to change things around here, aren't you?" Before Rose could answer, Alex appeared on the path. His face lit up when he saw her, the same way it had that first day in the garden. "There you are," he said. "Uncle Lee is asking for you. He wants to tell you about the traditional tea ceremony for our wedding." Rose stood, smoothing her blue dress. "Patricia and I were just clearing the air." Alex nodded to Patricia, who looked appropriately contrite as she excused herself and walked back toward the house. "Are you happy?" Alex asked when they were alone, wrapping his arms around Rose's waist. "I am," she said honestly. "But I'm not changing who I am for this world, Alex. If I'm going to be your wife, I'll still be the same Rose who gets dirt under her nails and talks to plants." "I wouldn't want anything else," he promised. "We'll build our own world, one with less pretense and more kindness." She rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I'd like that." In the months that followed, Rose did indeed change things at Blackwood Estate. The formal gardens were partly converted to grow fresh vegetables for local food banks. The annual gala became a fundraiser for environmental education, with guests encouraged to wear practical clothes and get their hands dirty planting trees. Some of the old circle fell away, uncomfortable with the changes. But new friends came too, people drawn to the warmth and genuineness that now characterized the Chen household. As for Patricia, she became an unexpected ally, learning from Rose's example how to be more authentic. Thomas and others like him found their business relationships with Chen Enterprises gradually cooling. On their first anniversary, Alex surprised Rose with a small cottage at the edge of the estate, a place just for them, surrounded by wild gardens that Rose could tend however she pleased. For when we need to escape from it all, he explained as he handed her the key. A little piece of simple in our complicated life. Rose stood on tiptoe to kiss him, thinking how strange life could be. She had gone from being the woman humiliated by a billionaire's guests to being that same billionaire's beloved wife, still working in the garden, still with dirt under her nails, but now with the power to grow something even more beautiful, a life where people were valued for their character, not their bank accounts.